We see a lot of skimboards at the beach, and now it's time to learn how to make your own skimboard. So I'm going to show you the easiest way to make this skimboard in my opinion, and it starts off with some 1/4-inch plywood. So you're going to pick out a piece of 4x8 plywood. You know, the more money you spend on it, the better chance it will be, it'll hold up just a little bit better. But you could just pick up a piece of 1/4-inch Luan and give this a try. A good paint job on it, it'll probably last a really long time. So you don't have to get too carried away if you don't want to. But basically our goal is to take a piece of 1/4-inch plywood and we're going to cut it down. You can make 2 skimboards from one piece, and our goal is to cut it down to where each skimboard will end up being a 1/2 inch thick. So here's kind of what I started off with. This is some Baltic birch 1/4-inch plywood. So it's a little bit stiffer than some of the Luan, but it's a fairly tight grained plywood, so all the layers are pretty tight together. So it's a pretty high quality. You're going to need to get the stickers off it. So if there's any stickers on there, if you're going to put glue on that surface, the sticker needs to come off. So I cut this one to where it's going vertical, the grain, and then I'm cutting this one to where it goes horizontal. So right now, obviously, this wouldn't be a very fun skimboard, right? Because it's just flat. We want a skimboard that has some curve to it. So this skimboard here I picked up years ago as a sample, and it has a curve on the front, a pretty good sized curve on the front, and then a little curve on the back. So that's kind of a hard curve to make. And what works the best is if you have a mold that you can glue some thinner plywood to form them around the mold. So that's what we have here. This is a mold made especially for skimboards, and the widest skimboard we can make with this mold is 22 inches. And then the longest skimboard we can make with this mold is about 40 inches. So those are that's the biggest board you can make with this mold. So our goal is going to be to apply a thin layer of glue on both the mating surfaces, and then we're going to put the vertical grain piece on top of the mold when it's time. And that way, by keeping the vertical grain on top, all the grain direction will go the way you would use the board, in the same direction, and it'll kind of help with the paint to soak in and things like that. So now we have to figure out how we're going to press this skimboard, how we're going to make that fit around the mold to help form it. So here's what we have. I'm going to set this aside, and the first thing we have to do is protect our mold, because we don't want to glue this thing up and then not be able to get it off the mold. So that's why where we have this piece of trash bag or any kind of plastic would probably work. But we have to tape this on the bag, or the bag on the mold, to help protect the mold. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but a couple pieces of tape on the edges to hold it down would be really great. And then the next thing we'll do after that, once this is taped down, we're going to put the mold in this vacuum bag. So the mold will go in the vacuum bag, and what we have here is a baseboard that has all these grooves in it. So if you look close, you'll see all these saw curves, and we're going to turn on the bag, and it's going to suck all the air out of the bag. Kind of like you would when you buy a piece of beef jerky. It's all shrink wrap. There's no air in the bag. So that's what this is going to do. Now keep in mind, this bag doesn't look like it's anything super special, but it is. It's a very expensive bag, and we want to be careful with it. We want to try not to get any sharp objects near it. We don't want to poke a hole in the bag because it'll never be the same. So we're going to try to put this mold right on top of this board here. And then in between this mesh layer will go on top, and that helps evacuate the air out of the bag. And then we'll try to seal up the bag really good. So as you can see, everything flows out the bottom of the bag, and there's a pump that pumps everything out. So it's just a little pump, but it can create some massive vacuum pressure. It's kind of hard to explain, but it creates a pressure that's about 1,400 pounds per square foot of force. But it's just measured a little bit differently. And I'm not going to get into all the physics behind it right this minute, but it's really cool. So it takes the atmospheric pressure out, and the bag collapses, and it presses things down to bend it in the shape that we want here. So I'm going to get the plastic ready to go. I'm going to get my mold ready to go first before I put any glue on. I'm going to make sure I have no stickers in the way on my boards. I'm going to get my boards all dusted off, and then I'll show you how to glue those up. All right, my two pieces are cleaned off and ready to glue, and I'm just going to use some Tight Bond wood glue. If you wanted to upgrade this project a little bit, you could get some of the waterproof Tight Bond wood glue, but honestly, I'm not going to let this sit in the water because it really doesn't matter what glue I use. If I let this sit in the water, it's going to get damaged because the people who glued up the plywood probably didn't use waterproof glue. So this board is not meant to just be submerged in the water for a really long time. It's meant to use as a skim board, then take out of the water to dry. I'm going to be counting on my finish coat, my paint or my finish to help repel the moisture while I'm using it, and then I'll bring it into the house when I'm done. I'm not going to let it sit out in the rain and things like that. So I'm just going to use this regular glue. So my goal is to spread this glue using some glue spreaders. I want a thin layer on both pieces. You could use a roller too, like a foam roller would work pretty good. I don't have an extra one of those right now, so I'm just going to use this regular Bondo spreader, and I'm going to get a nice thin layer on the whole project. All right, work hard here. All right, the big goal here with spreading the glue is to get a nice thin layer of glue on both surfaces. So you don't want huge puddles of glue, but you do want to cover every single surface the best you can. Now the board is in the vacuum bag. We have the black trash bag to protect the mold, and we're waiting for the pump to suck all the air out of the bag. So what I'm trying to do here is pull the bag closer to the board while the pump sucks the air out, so that way it doesn't create extra stress on the bag. So you'll see me trying to push on the sides of the board, the mold there, to get the bag up close. And now I'm trying to push down on the boards a little bit so the bag doesn't get trapped between the board and the mold. So now the air is mostly out of the bag, and you'll see it's pulling it down to the mold now. Then I can work out a couple of those wrinkles in the bag if I want, and I'm just trying to make sure everything's good. So now some time has passed, and you'll see the little glue starting to squirt out, and that's about a perfect amount. I'm pretty happy with that. All right, well, I just took this out of the mold, out of the bag. It was in there for about 4 hours, and then I let it sit overnight before I actually opened the bag. But the glue has been hardened now, and we did get a little bit of spring back, and that's because of the type of glue we used, and these layers were really firm to begin with. So if you wanted to avoid spring back, you have to use a different kind of glue, and you'd have to use some more flexible materials. So if I push down on the mold, springback means is it didn't quite hold the mold shape. It actually lifted up just about 3/4 of an inch. So it has a nice curve to it, but not quite the full curve I could achieve. If I used a different kind of glue, I could get a little better bend, but it's going to be more expensive, and then the other glues don't clean up as good, and it's probably not really worth it because we have a nice little bend here, and I think it's going to be fine. I'm going to do it again. Notice that we clamp the template board right to the new board. That way it's not sliding around when we're trying to mark it. It really makes it more efficient. Yeah. All right, notice both hands are on the saw, and if both hands are on the saw, you can't cut one of your hands because they're both on top of the saw. So we have this board clamped down good as she's cutting. She's trying to save the line and really trying to do a good job there. Now we're doing the edge sanding, and same thing, just trying to sand up to the line, going nice and easy. Now it's time to router the corners. We're using a really small roundover bit, about an 1/8 inch radius roundover bit, to knock those sharp corners off. That's what the bit looks like. And now we're off to orbit sanding. So we're going to random orbit sand the top, and then do a lot of hand sanding on the edges. And at that point, it's pretty much ready to paint.